morning, everyone, and welcome to another dark morning in a wintry Central European time zone. This time we're going to start with some gesture drawing of animals, but this time it's going to be birds. And here we are. One moment, I'm going to reposition. I have invented a method to have the chat and gesture drawings on the screen at the same time. Unfortunately, this is just having two Firefox windows on at the same time. So I have to, push them around a little bit to actually see the timer at the same time as I am drawing. So here we are. This seems to be a goose of some kind. And of course, I will have to be exceedingly aggressive with the 30-second drawings, which I think will be much easier for me with birds than it is with cats. I think this one is two turkeys, I think. Good morning, pig, or good day in your time, I think. We are going to be looking at some birds. There. This is a small bird that I am not capable of identifying. He's just standing there. Kind of a curved beak there. No, I think for me as a friend of cats, drawing cats is a fun activity. I think drawing birds is going to be something that I would recommend as an art student activity. This is half a dozen pelicans. The amount of pelicans is higher than I would like to attempt to draw in 30 seconds. In any case, I should be drawing these much smaller. The thing with birds is that they have they seem to have a structure that lends itself to quick sketching much more easily than humans or even cats. Of course, for me, as not particularly a friend of birds, I'm not familiar with looking at birds, so I don't really, apart from the general anatomy that's going to be relatively similar to any other terrestrial animal, I don't know what a bird should look like. So there's less of a, danger of symbolic drawing. And really, as I understand, the point of gesture drawing is exactly that, to observe and quickly draw without thinking all that much. This is another parrot. The previous one was a parrot as well. He's got his tongue out. And then the beak is much stronger on the underside than it is on the overside. This seems to be an owl. A very aggressive pose. I think the only owls that I am able to actually identify by sight are the Arctic owl, mostly because it is entirely white. and possibly the eagle owl. In nature, I'm able to identify an eagle owl because it is physically large. But of course, in photos, the actual size is not necessarily as identifiable as it is when you actually see one. It's really the same with corvids. I can tell when it's a raven because ravens are huge. They are just physically larger than crows or other corvids. And this is a swan. So when you are in a forest and you see an absolutely massive thing, and you don't immediately know if it's a crow or a raven, it is a raven. They are absolute monsters. So here we are moving into the 1-minute poses. This is 4 pelicans. I'm going to have to pick out one pelican. I'm going to take the one who is grooming himself. So you can now tell all your friends that this is a grooming chat. It might have been a mistake to pick the pelican who is grooming himself, because this is actually, I don't understand how his beak is sort of moving side to side. I have to assume that that is a normal thing that pelicans can do, but I've never seen that. Thank you, Pig. I imagine that that's a consequence of wanting to be an architect when I was in high school. I actually tried to enter a architecture program, but the I don't know what these are called in English. No, pre-work. The application consisted of you had to make some a miniature and photo collage, and well, today I assume that it was a photo collage. It was not actually particularly clear in the instructions. But anyway, my pre-works were not accepted. I was not invited into the actual entrance exam. One possible explanation is that it might be that my entrance was simply too late. According to the postal service, it arrived at the university on the date of the deadline, but this does not necessarily mean that it was available at the correct faculty before the time of closing. Unfortunately, I did not get any details, so I just was informed that actually I was not informed anything. I had to look up the points for the submissions and did not see myself on the list, so obviously I had not passed. But if it was because my submission was too late, which is a possibility, or perhaps it was because they wanted a photo collage and I actually did a text collage, so a newspaper collage. I don't know, but I was demotivated enough that I did not apply again the next year. Well, in any case, not being an architect has worked out for me. I actually work with someone who was educated as an architect, and turns out that being an architect is actually extremely stressful. So it might not have been actually fun to be an architect. This is like a baby penguin or something like something with that effect. Weird little thing. an architect, although not in that way, of course. As you might have been able to deduce from the constant ina drawing. I agree that the browsing posting is fun, but not really something that I am into myself. This is a kiwi. I was actually thinking about kiwis at some point fairly recently. Um, Especially the concept of a kiwi harpy. But there's the kiwi's weird globular body was too difficult for me to actually think of a combination with a human. The best idea that I had was like this one image that some of you might have seen of an, so to say, owl harpy, where it's just a woman's head on an owl's body, which is funny, but not necessarily what you think of when you say that you want to draw a harpy. This is another parrot. Seems to be doing a sort of a bodybuilder pose here. There's a fair area here that's actually quite dark in shadow, so it has to be puffed up in some way. And he's looking behind him like he was, on a bodybuilding stage. Kind of a funny creature. His coloring is not particularly impressive. If I was grading a parrot bodybuilding competition, I would definitely award points for being extremely colorful. This one is just, green, entirely green, no other colors. Has a sort of a menacing look to his eye here. That's kind of fun as well. And he's got his tail feathers hanging over here. His actually this 5 minutes is surprisingly long time for birds, I find. I'm going to be able to actually, more or less finish sketching this thing before I'm done. He's doing like a jaunty contrapposto here. He's a cool bird. I like this guy. So he's sitting on some sort of a plant. I mean, that looks like it's another thing that I don't know the English name for. A cat's paw. But, those are extremely small. So this is either a parrot the size of a matchbox, or this is some kind of a tropical plant that I am not actually all that familiar with. I am going to spend the last 2 minutes trying to give an idea of his plumage. No, I don't think that's such a particularly good idea. I think I'm going to switch brushes and start actually shading him a little bit. Once I'm done with, giving him some facial details. And I think his tongue is showing again. Parrots love showing their tongues for some reason. So I'm going to check up the size a little bit. I'm going to have to add a another layer for this. No, I really have to check down the opacity here. Some dark shadow there. I might just, if the rest of the unusual animal work is going to end up being as much fun as the birds are, I think I'm going to post some of the. In any case, I could post all of the 10-minute gestures on Twitter once I'm done with the program for the week. So, next bird. This is a dove. I think a rock dove. So, basically a pigeon, but kind of the wild pigeon. And he's making a very dramatic, halting mid-flight pose. Kind of got his feet curled up here. They are making a slight V here, both visually and anatomically. Both of them have two visible claws. I wonder if pigeons have two front claws. As you know, I'm not familiar with birds, so factual questions about the anatomy of specific birds is not something that I am capable of teaching here. He has got that, big round, friendly looking eye. Its main body is coming something like this, I think, but it is mostly hidden behind the wing. The wing here has, some fairly imposing muscles on it. Although I don't know what those muscles do. I imagine the flight is mostly powered by the breast muscles, pectorals. So he has fanned his tail. It is coming out slightly over there. And I think it is pointing slightly forward, so not entirely perpendicular to the what I assume to be the direction of his flight. So something like this, and his other wing has to be doing something like this. What I can see is this part here. There's a definite angle, and I think that's the large muscle here. He doesn't really have that sort of visible other side to it. Hmm. This wing is going to disappear just under the tip of the fanned out tail. Sort of got a pectoral separation here, kind of looking like a bodybuilder as well. Although I suppose when you are a bird, if you get too fat, you can't actually fly. So I would assume that a large amount of, if not all, birds are actually quite lean. I think for mammals, it's mostly a question of the size of your fur. For example, I have seen some tigers with imposing physiques. The last time that I actually saw a tiger at the zoo was a while ago, but he had some amazing shoulders. And at least for that zoo had a pair of tigers, so one male, one female, and at least in that case, the male was much more muscular than the female one. So that was 5 minutes, and now finally 10 minutes of what I think is a falcon. It's a small bird of prey. I know that falcons and hawks are, do not actually share an amazingly common ancestry, although they look extremely similar. But whether or not this is a falcon or a hawk, I have no idea. It's just looking like a hawk, normal bird of prey things, as a sort of a. He looks extremely awake, like he's concentrating. But birds of prey usually do. Hairless chimps. I have seen at least one photo of a hairless chimp. I would not like to interact with a hairless chimp, I have to agree. Although I don't think I would like to interact with a chimp under any conditions. They seem to be some of the worst, morally some of the worst animals that exist. As I understand it, they will immediately attack your face, fingers, and genitals. All three are body parts that I would prefer to have unattacked by chimpanzees. Like, if I was interacting with a lion or something, and it sort of started play biting me, I imagine that would be extremely dangerous and likely terrifying. But I think I would have a better time being mauled by a lion than being mauled by a chimpanzee. One, I think if a lion went all out on me, I'd probably just end up dead. If a chimpanzee attacked me, I would have a much more of a likelihood of ending up terrifyingly mauled and crippled and disfigured for life, which are things that I do not want to become. I would prefer to stay as physically and emotionally capable as possible. I imagine chimps are able to shoot guns. Competence is going to be a question. I am not convinced that they would be able to understand how to use the sights on a gun. So actually hitting something that's further away seems unlikely to me. Although, of course, I am no expert on chimp shooting. So if they have the cognitive capability to be effective firearms users, might be. I don't think so, but I might be wrong. But definitely being able to set off a firearm, that should be absolutely no problem for them. And going by ape stereotypes, they probably would like to play around with a gun. So handing a chimp a gun would probably be an extremely bad idea. And the fuzz here on the legs ends at a relatively similar level. Then we have the claws. The middle claw here is going to be more or less straight. The other ones are relatively symmetrically. I think I've drawn the foot a little short here. Well, we've got 10 minutes. I can pull it back a little bit and then move it. And then I'll probably have to make the tail a bit longer. Yeah, that looks a bit better. The other foot is sort of perched here. More clearly sitting on the edge of an item. There's a bit of wood that this bird is sitting on. And the stage. How many toes does he have? He has to have a third one somewhere behind there, but I can't see it. He is sitting on a kind of a angled piece of wood like this. So his one foot is over here, and one foot is across the edge of the wood. You can't really see the mass of this wood, since it is the cut is on our side. So the other side of the cut would be something like this behind there. That is not something that we will be able to see. He might have ended up a little stumpy, but I'm not going to stress myself about correctly drawing birds. It's not something that I identify as a core competence. So making mistakes with it is not an emotional problem for me. And as I keep recommending, I think that's an extremely that's a major driver for gesture drawing animals being a good art practice. You don't really have any stakes. It's low stakes, weird stuff. If you only draw things that you project drawings, then there's some sunk costs there. If you mess it up, you wasted time. At least you feel like you wasted time. Most likely you did not waste time, since probably even if it feels like everything went wrong, you probably learned something. At least if you are in the emotional state to identify what the problem was. Of course, not necessarily always the case. Well, this time I'm going to try detailing him with the hard pencil brush. He's got a bit stronger of a pattern here on the back of his head. There is some white there, but as I am doing this monochrome, I'm just going to more strongly scribble there. He's got a sort of spider's web pattern on his chest here. Looks kind of cool. But lower down on his chest, he has sort of squiggly stripes. So I think that's probably going to be something that I will actually pay attention to, although I do not know if that is something that you could identify this bird based upon. It's got sort of black point on his nose or beak, and the absolute tip of it is very dark, if not entirely black. Ah, that was 10 minutes. I think like with the cats, I am going to actually no, the image disappeared already. So that is going to be my bird for today. One moment, I am going to switch recordings.